Right, welcome to a new series. This is going to be Captain's Flight School, and so in this we're going to go over some basics flying, go over some basic aeronautics, some basic flight training. A little bit of my background, my degree's in aeronautical science. I was, learned to fly in college, and then was a flight instructor for about a year, and then went to the airlines, flew for the airlines for a few years, and then recession happened and switched careers. So a lot of people have shown some interest in learning how to fly a little bit better, learning some of the basic terminology, and so this coincides a little bit with my build challenge going on right now. Um, and so I kind of built an example for my build challenge of a single engine trainer. And so go ahead, and we're going to use my single engine trainer here. It's not perfect, it's not completely finished, but it flies well and it gets the job done. And so this is going to be kind of the aircraft I'm going to use to at least start some of this training. As we progress and get into complex aircraft, I'll change up the aircraft and we'll do things like retractable gear and variable pitch propeller. A complex aircraft is different than a non-complex aircraft. And so you tend to learn on a non-complex aircraft. And so in the US, you generally will start with a non-complex aircraft, and what this does is it is a fixed pitch propeller. So the pitch of the propeller is always the same. So if we look here at the number on there, it's zero point 0.9. That doesn't change. When you go into complex aircraft, that was part of my commercial license. You have to learn complex aircraft. They have variable pitch propellers that you manually change the pitch of the propeller, and you get things like retractable landing gear. Um, and so, that's a complex aircraft, and that's, again, more complex. And so let's go ahead and let's get started. We'll go over some of the basics. A lot of people have shown some interest in trying to get better at flying. So let's go ahead and jump on. And we'll fly from the left seat. So this aircraft I can fly from either seat, so that allows me if I'm working as a flight instructor. So, I'm going to kind of cut out some of the boring stuff and try to get right at it. So we'll go over controls really quick. So H, 80 roll, WS pitch, left right is yaw, up down is throttle, space is brakes. What this allows me to do is keep both hands on the keyboard. I do have to move my mouse around to move my view, but it allows me to keep all my hands on the keyboard. And so especially I'm going to have to do precise throttle changes as I'm doing things like flaring and in different regimes of flight. And so I want to be able to have my hands on the keyboard, especially when we're getting close to the ground. So that's why the control scheme is like that. Next thing we'll do is, first thing we're going to do generally when we get an aircraft, turn on the master power. That gives power to the whole aircraft. Next is avionics. That's going to turn on our screens and gauges. Next, we're going to do our magnetos. So our magnetos in real life, they're like these little generators that connect to the spark plugs. And each cylinder has 2 spark plugs for redundancy. So if one of your spark plugs fouled, it had too much soot on it, the other magneto would give, give spark to it. And so these are essentially just my generators. So connecting those. Next thing I'm going to do is before we start the engine, we're going to turn on our beacon. So our beacon on small general aviation aircraft is generally on our tail. It flashes. That tells people around the aircraft that you're powered up and you could start either the prop or start moving. So then we'll go ahead and we'll open our door. You want to yell clear prop to make sure nobody's standing around the prop so nobody gets hit when you start the engine. Clear prop. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll start. All right, engine's coming up. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get ready to taxi. So I'm going to release my parking brake. This is a non-controlled airfield. There's no tower, so we're going to go ahead and we'll just get on the radio and we'll tell people where we're going. So 55 November Echo, we're taxiing to 36 for takeoff. All right, the runway numbers are the compass headings. So the opposite direction going this way, that is north, so that would be 360. So it's runway 36. We'll configure ourselves for takeoff. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to the first notch of flaps. And I'm going to taxi down the end. I don't need all this runway, but I'm going to taxi down. Just give me some extra space, give me some extra time. And we'll stop at the end of the runway. That's called position and hold. So I'm going to make another call. 55 November X-ray, November Echo. We're position and hold runway 36 Jones. And so we'll call the airport Jones. I don't know what it's called in game. I'll just call it something. So All right, so I'm going to straighten up. I want to get on that center line as close as I can. So right there is good. So I want to get on that center line. Again, the more precise you can be, the better. By getting on the center line, you are as far away from the obstacles on the side of the runway as possible. So I believe this is the shortest runway. So what we want to do here is we're set up with flaps. We want to do our lights before we take off, navs, strobes, and landing light. We want to advance our throttle to full. I'm going to add a little bit of back pressure on my elevators. So before we move, we also want to do a control check, make sure they are going the right way. You do this in real life to make sure that the mechanics didn't accidentally hook them up backwards. You want to make sure that they're not jammed. You want to make sure that you don't have a gust lock on. There's a gust lock device that you lock into your column so that as the wind's blowing, it's not blowing your control surface around and breaking them. So you want to make sure that's removed. So pitch is good. Our elevators are good. Our ailerons are good. They're going the correct direction and they're free. Our yaw is good. All right, so controls are free and correct. All right, so we want to go full throttle. We want to do a little bit of gentle back pressure on our elevator, just a little bit of gentle back pressure on it. And that's going to help take the weight off the nose wheel. And that's going to cut down our drag. It's going to make sure that it's a little easier to get up. And when the plane is going fast enough and ready to fly, the nose will pick up. We're going to maintain that pitch attitude about 10 degrees, probably 15. And then we should gently take off the ground. We'll go about 15 to 20 degrees and climb out. So let's go ahead and do it. So nav lights, strobes, taxi lights. You know, a lot of times in aviation people go lights, camera, action. You know, that's kind of the way they think of it. We'll release the brakes. We want to maintain center line the whole time, so we'll go full throttle. And I'm just gently steering. I'm looking at the very end of the runway. I'm not looking close to me. I'm looking down the end of the runway. And I'm just gently steering. A little bit swazy there. Nose comes off. I'm going to hold 15 degrees. As you can see, gently up off the ground. Once I'm over 100 knots, I can go flaps up. Reason you're doing that is the flaps are giving you extra lift, and you don't want to pull that lift away from yourself. So we're going to go up to about 800 feet. There it is. Now, we took off at 360, so if we go to the west, we will be turning 90 degrees. We want to turn 90 degrees, so if we look at the compass off to my right there, you can see west. Now we're rolled out at west. I want to maintain about 1,000 feet, so I'm a little bit high. So I'm going to descend. And so we're going to look off our wing, and now we're going to start to make our next turn. So we're going to go to the south. Again, checking my altitude, making sure I'm not climbing too much. Actually want to make sure we're descending down to 1,000 feet. And once we get south, that's the opposite of the direction we took off of. South, and now if we look to our left, there's the runway. So this is called downwind. So the leg we were just on was crosswind. When we were taking off and going with the runway, that was upwind. So we went upwind, crosswind, now we're on downwind. And so you always want to take off into the wind. Right now I have the wind as calm, so we can take off in any direction. All right, so once I cross the numbers, the end of the runway, I want to start putting my flaps in. In this aircraft, I'm going to put full flaps in right now. Just get all set up. It saves some time for me. All right, and now I'm ready to, when that's about 45 degrees, so see, I'm going to tip my wing about 45 degrees. We'll start turning. We'll start descending, and we'll start turning our base leg. Again, we're turning 90 degrees again, so we want to go east. I'm going to descend down, and I'm just gently pulling some power there. I'm a little bit fast. I want to start slowing down. All right, and now we are going east, so we're going about 90 degrees. As you can see, it's 90 degrees off our left. All right, we'll start turning final. Final is the final leg of the pattern, and that's the one that lines up with the runway. So I'm cutting it. I was cutting in a little bit too much. We don't want to go any slower than 75 knots. That's our stall speed in this plane. So we want to come in about 80 knots is probably pretty good in this plane. There's 75. Let's add some power, I'm starting to stall. I can feel it. So there's 80. As I pick my nose up, I lose some, I'm going to lose speed. So I need to add some. As I gain speed, I need to pull some throttle. So constantly you hear me clicking, monitoring my throttle. So I'm a little fast, tapping down, trying to slow down. Pitching up a little bit, it's going to kill a little speed. But if I pitch up, I have to add a little bit. We're looking at those 2 bars of 3. Gently start pulling and pitch my nose up gently. All right, I'm going to maintain center line. I'm going to just maintain center line. I have not tapped the brakes yet. I'm going to let the aircraft try to come to a stop by itself. If I need to tap the brakes, I will, but I'm going to let it just slow itself down. I'm going to come over to the left here, and I'm just going to spin around. As I spin around, I'm going to tap some brakes hard, and as you can see, we can make a nice tight turn. And we'll taxi back. All right, so I didn't make it into the callouts. That's fine. You don't have to make the callouts. You know, we're going to just learn how to operate the aircraft and do some patterns here. All right, so we're going to want to do what's called cleaning up your aircraft after we land. We're going to set our flaps either up or for takeoff. So we're going to do another takeoff, so we'll go ahead and put the flaps back up to that first notch. All right, there's flaps to the first notch. We can go ahead and we can, we're going to leave our strobes, nav lights, landing lights. Beacon always stays on when the engine's running. We're going to leave all those lights on when we're on the runway. That's in case somebody's coming in to land. They can much more easily see us, and so that they will go around and not hit us. And we'll also make a position call. Jones traffic, that's 55. November Echo is taxiing back to runway 36 for takeoff. Jones traffic. And so that is in a non-controlled airfield. It's just an open radio frequency, and you speak to other, you just call out on the frequency what you're doing, and that allows other pilots to know, you know, they know, okay, somebody's taxiing on the runway to go back, and they'll be like, Jones traffic, this is Piper 123 Echo Romeo. We're on an extended final for runway 36, and that tells you, okay, somebody's coming to land on 36, I should probably get moving. But you have priority, you're already on the runway. All right, so we are all ready to take off again. So make a position call. Jones traffic 55. November Echo is taking off runway 36, remain in the pattern. So we're telling them our intentions to stay in the pattern, do another pattern. All right, so adding full throttle, a little bit of back pressure on my elevator to get the weight off that nose wheel. Try to steer a little bit better on the way down here. There we go. 65, nose comes up. I'm going to just hold it 15 degrees. Let it gently take itself off when it's ready. There's 100 knots, flaps coming up. All right, and at 800, we're going to make our crosswind turn. We're on upwind. Here comes crosswind. All right, so we're going to go 90 degrees. And so that'll be the west. Okay, we're already over 1,000, so let's dip our nose and get down to 1,000. We're going to roll out on west. All right, and I'll visually check. Now, my head would be moving more in real life, but of course, you know, in game, I have to take my hand off and move the mouse. So not going to be doing as much looking as I would in real life. So we'll travel west for a little bit here. And the wider you make your pattern, the easier it is going to be. In real life, you don't want too wide of a pattern. We'll go ahead and turn downwind. Because in case you lost an engine, you'd like to be able to glide back and land on that runway. But again, it's a game, we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to go south here. My altitude's a little high, so I'm correcting that. Always correcting. You don't ever want to be happy with your altitude being off at all. You don't want to be happy with your airspeed being off. You want to always continually try to make it better. So right now, I'm about 100 feet too high. I'm going to fix it. Within regs, it wouldn't be a fail on a check ride, but it is something that's how you fail, is by allowing little, you know, incorrect things. So like even there, I'm 20 feet off. I'm constantly trying to change and fix it. All right, so I'm going to dip my wing. I have a low wing, so I have to dip it sometimes to see. It is about 45 degrees. So let's go ahead and let's go, we passed the numbers already. Let's go ahead and go full flaps, and then we'll turn our base leg, climbing again. So we'll climb when we add in flaps. We're adding in lift. So it's going to climb the aircraft, so we need to pitch our nose down a little bit. So I'm going to turn to east. That will be 90 degrees. Start pitching my nose back up here. And I want to start descending here, so going east. I'm going to just check over there. And I'm a little high, so I'm going to start pulling some power, checking, and we can turn to our final. Again, final is north 360. That's the runway heading. And so I'm going to come in and try to line right up for it. All right, 80 is about what I want to arrive at. So I'm at 80 right now, so that's good. So again, we're looking at those two sets of 3 bars. Those are our aiming bars. All right, so I want to aim at my aiming bars. And now as I pick my nose up, we're going to slow down a little bit. So I'm constantly changing my throttle. As I change my pitch, I need to change my throttle. All right, and so nice approach here, a little bit low. So all we're going to do is level off a second, and now we're perfect. We're on a good 3-degree glide slope. A little fast, so I'm going to pull some off. A little bit of throttle off. There we go. I'm going to add it back in now. We're starting to settle in. We're at a good speed. All right. Start bringing that throttle back. Bringing it back, bringing it back. Pitch, 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 flare. Nice touchdown. All I'm going to do is steer and try to maintain the center line of the runway. Not even going to tap the brakes. All right. Now I'm going to do my turn, so I'm going to kind of jag it to the left here. kind of like 45 degrees, and then I'm going to spin it to the right. And I don't need any brake on this one. I'm going slower. So, all right, and we'll taxi back. I didn't make my position calls, so this next pattern, I will make all the calls, and we'll do the same thing with calls. 55 November Echo, we're taxiing back to runway 36 for left traffic, Jones. All right, so that was my tail number, and what I'm planning to do, text back for another, left pattern for runway 36, and Jones is saying we're at Jones Airport. All right, so flaps need to come up. Flaps are going to go to that first notch, and we are set for takeoff. Flaps set. All right, takeoff checklist complete. Lights are on, and the flaps are set. We're good to go. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and we're going to take off. So we'll go Jones traffic 55 November Echo is taking off runway 36 Jones. All right, here we go. A little bit off center line. I'm not going to accept any inconsistencies, so I'm going to get back on center line. You want to be on that center line. I'm looking at the very end of the runway. I'm not looking close to me. I'm looking far away. Pitching the nose up gently. Let it take itself off once we pitched. 15. You don't want to yank the nose up. That's how you hit your tail. 100 knots or greater. We're going to raise the flaps. We'll turn a little bit early. 600 feet. We're going to go ahead and turn. I've been overshooting my altitude, so we climb pretty fast in this. We climb unrealistically fast in this aircraft compared to real life. So instead of 800 feet where I'd normally turn, I'm going to do it at 6. So here, and that's making changes based on your aircraft. Different aircraft, different speeds, different weather conditions. You have to make changes. If it's really hot, you're not going to climb as well, so you need to make some changes. All right, next we'll make our turn to downwind, and I'll make my call. Jones, 55 November Echo is turning left downwind, runway 36 Jones. Again, that's telling people in the pattern what we're doing. So, for example, if you had an aircraft right here going 127 Lima, we're overflying Jones at 1,500 feet. Right, that tells us, hey, there's a guy flying right over. So we go, we have you in sight, 55 November Echo. All right, so we're passing the numbers. As we pass the numbers of the runway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our flaps back down to full. Maintain at 1,000. So I can see on my attitude indicator where my pitch should be now. So I was trying to keep it right at the horizon. I need to keep it a little low. So that's all based on the aircraft. We have flaps in. So even with a pitch down, because our flaps are behind our center of gravity, that's going to cause us to climb. So I'm going to check about 45 degrees. Let's go ahead and turn base. Jones traffic at 55 November Echo. We're turning left base, runway 36 Jones. I'm just looking. I have to keep moving my mouse. It'd be nice if we had head tracking. And so I'm really low here. So I'm going to pick my nose up. We're only at 300 something feet. That's because I have to constantly move my mouse to be able to see what I'm doing. So we're getting slow. I don't want to go any slower than about 80 knots in this. 75 is stall, so we don't want to stall this. Stall's pretty docilely, but I still rather not stall. Watching my speed. A little bit slow. All right, so I'm going to try to get right on speed this time. Jones traffic 55 November Echo. We are final, runway 36 Jones. All right, so telling them we're on final. So if an aircraft was like Jones traffic 1276 Lima is, taking off runway 36, we know, hey, somebody's taking off right in front of us, and so we'd have to decide, go around, we'd sidestep, do something. So I got a little slow there, added a little bit of power, pitched my nose up, I'm back on speed, and I'm back on my glide. I'm going to start pulling some power here, pulling it, a little bit more power. There we go. I didn't bounce, I just barely saved it. Center line, idle thrust. So still had some throttle in there because I had to add throttle when we touched down. But we're good. All right, tap the brakes. Don't need a slam on the brakes. 45 degrees, and we're going to spin it around. So this is the beginning of the flight school. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. A lot of people have been trying to get better at flying aircraft. A lot of it's setup. Everybody's trying to cut in too close, it seems. You notice how, each pattern I got closer and closer, and you saw how less time I had. That last landing was our ugliest. That was my closest pattern. So you want to keep your pattern wide enough that you have time. So did that on purpose, made it so that I had less and less and less time. And you start to see how much time you need. So about my middle pattern was good. My first one was too wide. I had lots of extra time. Didn't need all that time. Second one was about right. third one was too tight. So once you know that, you're in a rush the whole time. It takes you extra time to get on. As you can see, we had a little bit of a, it wasn't even a hard landing. I saved it at the end there, but I had to really kind of use some skills to save it. And whenever you're in doubt, you should just go around. So next episode, we'll go into go-arounds and how important those are. So we're going to taxi right in the hangar here. All right, let's set our brakes. So I'm holding the brakes with my space bar. We'll set the parking brake. Go ahead and kill my lights. After landing checklist, lights are off. Flaps they're coming up. And I will finish checklist when they come up. Flaps up. All right, after landing checklist complete. Shutdown checklist. We'll shut off the engine. All right. Left and right magnetos off. Avionics master off. Master power off. Beacon off. All right, and that is our secure checklist complete. Now we'll jump out. All right, so that's going to be the flight school. All right, so Captain Flight School is going to be all about just learning some of the basics. We'll go through, and I'm hoping to get through pretty much the different levels of flight training. So this is pretty much your start. This is what day one would be like. This is when I took it, would take a student out on day one. Go take them out, let them fly a little, go do some patterns, kind of, make sure they're not too scared of landing or getting close to the runways. Make sure they're cool with it. You don't want them to be scared. You want them to be comfortable in it. And then once you kind of see that, you can move on to some other stuff. So hope you guys are going to enjoy this. Hope you learned some things, and I will see you in the next one.